Namaste, my dear brothers and sisters.
Namaste to all of you.
The love and blessings of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo to all of you. I have with me this young man, all of 40-year-old, uh, who has in a way sort of created history. His name is Narinder Beri, and the history of sorts that he has created is that he is the first person who has come to Sri Aurobindo Ashram Delhi branch after getting developing some sort of a curiosity after reading one of my books. Most of the time, or rather all the time, that what has happened in the past is that people come to the ashram and then some of them discover me and my books. But he discovered my book first, Back to Health Through Yoga, and then developed this curiosity to see who has written this book. And that's how he got in touch with the ashram. And to cut a long story short, that's how he has been in the ashram for nearly 1 week and has had some interactions with me. And that is something sort of unusual. And I'm not sure now if he's sure whether I was the person who was capable of writing that book.
You certainly are. You certainly are. I would say that you are blessed, and equally or more blessed are those people, including myself, who have read the words and the insights that you have shared in the books you have written. For me, just to share, the book that you have mentioned, Back to Health Through Yoga, was lying with me for almost 4 years at my home. Busy lives, probably what I can say. Somewhere I knew that this book has something special in it for me, and finally I got a chance to, not a chance, I just made up my mind I'm going to read it. And when I read it, it started transforming. It still is very transformational, and that is when I decided, hey, let me just try to see if I can meet this person. And yeah, it worked out.
Actually, this conversation is not about me or my books. It's primarily about you. So let me tell the audience a little more that you are an engineer by qualification and that currently you're working with Meta and are posted in the London office, although originally you're from Jalandhar. Now, a person like you who develops this urge to come up to a place like the ashram, even if it is after reading a book, is an unusual person. And after the interactions that I've had with you during the last few days, I can see that you are one of those persons who arrive in this world with at a higher level of consciousness. And in light of Sri Aurobindo and the mother's teachings, that's a very significant thing. It's happening more and more. More and more people are arriving on this planet at that level where they are a little different from the norm that we have been accustomed to so far. So what was exceptional so far is now becoming far more commonplace. And you belong to that exceptional sort of a group of people who promise to usher in that new world that Sri Aurobindo and the mother have visualized. Now, if I turn to your early life, then what you've shared with me is that probably the first trigger that you got for walking a path, unusual path, a path that was Godward rather than success word, if I may put it that way, was when you were in grade 6. From what you have been sharing with me during the last few days, I think we can start with your father's illness when you were in grade 6 and how that touched you so much that you took a distinct step, which can be called the Godward step. So would you like to share a little about that?
Sure. So my father is more than a father. My father is a teacher to me. He is my guru. Like, I have been taught by him. He has taken so much care on meticulously planning and executing the like all the subjects, and the way he taught me everything, not relying too much on the school, but making sure that he gives me quality time. So back when I was in 6th grade, he suffered with jaundice, and it was very severe. He was hospitalized, and then it took him months to recover. Sort of, he was bedridden for that time. I used to watch some television serials. You can call them Indian mythology, but and every time people had some challenge, they would pray to God. They would go to mountains to pray, or do some sort of sacrifice, penance, some things. And I happened to see a rosary somewhere in our temple. The temple was a small, just some pictures in a cupboard.
In a temple within the house.
Yeah, within the house. A very humble, modest temple, I would say. And there was a rosary in that. Nobody had used it. I had not seen anyone using it in my family, but somehow it occurred to me that if I chant the name of Lord and ask Lord to heal my father, that's what maybe I can do. So every night when the lights would be turned off and everyone would go to sleep, I would I would have already picked that, and it would be in my pocket or under the pillow, and I would just uh, sit up and uh, start doing my bit for my father. I would sometimes do 10 rounds of the rosary, earnestly praying through my heart, and at the end of it, requesting God, whatever the force is behind this game, this universe, to heal my father. And it continued for quite a while. My father eventually got uh, well within a couple of months, thanks to all- all the care that was being given. But this was a major trigger for me to on that path, I would say.
And if I get it right, this continued well after your father had recovered.
Yes, this continued well. It was just a habit that set in, and even afterwards, because it was a habit, it just continued for a number of years. At least I remember till I was in grade 10. It continued.
Normally, people, when they continue such a practice, they expect something positive to happen in their lives. But would you like to share, I mean, how you used to divide those positive effects, uh, hardly keeping anything for yourself and thinking of everybody else, uh, what positive effects it should have on others all over the world?
Yeah, and this is also very strange. As I look back, I I try to figure out how it came to me, but I almost start smiling when I remember that at the end of my session with God or sitting with God, I would say, God, if at all I have earned some merit, in Hindi it's called punya, some merit with this sitting, or even otherwise with all the things that I've done during the day, 95% of that should go to healing my father or something like that. I had a deep love for my cousins, like I still have. I used to regard them as brothers and sisters and not cousins. The word cousin was very alien to me. I loved all of them because they all of them loved me as if we were real brothers and sisters. So I would reserve 3% for them, and I remember 1 or 2% I would say for the entire world. Probably because in Punjab I had heard Guru Nanak say Sarbat da Pala, which means ask for good for the entire world. Maybe that had an impact somewhere, and I would just say, hey, just do good for all the world. Though while saying this, it used to occur to me, my logical brain would tell me that, hey, you are asking God to do good for his own world. Like, what kind of equation is this? But I would anyway do it.
Actually, the way you put it and the word merits that you used uh, is something, which is exactly what is done in the Buddhist circles. you earn merits through a spiritual practice, and this is called sharing of merits. That is, you want to share it with everyone, and instinctively, sort of, you were doing exactly that. Actually, in fact, I mean, this is something that one can say in different ways occurs in all religious and spiritual traditions. But just occurred to me that the Buddhists put it exactly in this way. They call it merits, and then they have this exercise of sharing of merits. Probably the next major milestone in your spiritual journey was around age 20 when you read a book. Would you like to share that book and what it did to you?
Yeah. I was in Delhi studying in NSIT, studying software engineering, and I think it was the second year of my study. And a friend of mine gave me a book on mystic Baba Bulle Shah. I I used to read other texts as well on spirituality, you can say. When I read Baba Bulle Shah and some of the, like, his experience, like what his life journey was, what he could have become had he chosen to stay on the materialist world, what levels he could have occupied, what seats he could have been sitting on, and but what he chose and his entire path, they were and even today enough to ignite or light you up from within and start asking those deeper questions like, who am I, where have I come from, where am I going? and and that book played a pivotal role in my life at that point in time when I was young and the energies I had could have gone into any way, to the extent that one to the extent that I started intensifying some of my meditative practices, whatever minimal I had, and reaching out to some saints and um, some people who have been on this path for guidance.
So this book served as a sort of a trigger for a significant spiritual awakening, and you immediately started asking some deep existential questions. And as you said a few days back, that the basic question was, I want to know God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in fact, some of these questions had started arriving earlier as well when I was in grade 11 and 12, when I would study physics and gravitational laws and all. And I would wonder, like, okay, Newton figured out all these laws. I know the equations, I can solve all the numericals. But from where did this space come? First and foremost, like if I were to acquire the plot that is empty, like I was living in a house, a neighbor's plot was empty. If I were to acquire it, I'll pay some money, I'll acquire it. But the space that this entire universe is in, where did this space come from? I would keep thinking, pondering on this question, and my mind would keep getting boggled. I would ask it to everyone around, all the elders in family, and no one would be able to answer it. They would just smile, and so these questions were there. But at the age of 20 or so, they would just not leave me. And when I read these books and this book and started intensifying some of my practices, one evening I even not evening actually, one night I went to a nearby ashram and just started uh, just started begging them, or started not begging, I would say, started pestering them for answers that I was looking for. And what I learned was, hey, just keep your patience. It's understandable that you have some fire within you, but keep your patience and start walking the path, and you will know.
Now, let me now turn to another significant milestone in your spiritual journey, which was when you got a severe back injury at the age of 20, isn't it?
25.
So 25. So at the age 25, you got a severe back injury, and uh, a bit of neglect and mishandling, that young age, that bravado, that doesn't matter. Uh, I can still continue doing everything. So that actually made it worse. And then you reached a point where you suddenly started feeling that probably you only have a few months to live. And whatever little time I have left now, let me make the best use of it. So, uh, would you like to share some of the things that you started doing during that period?
Yeah. So I suffered a major back injury. I fell on floor on my back while trying to do some karate move or something like that, and I worsened it in a few days. And when I realized that the pain was traveling all over my body, and the doctors, like whosoever I consulted, they were not. I was not getting the help I needed, and the pain was unbearable. And I felt only 2 or 3 months of my life are left. So, as a child in Indian culture, everyone has heard that hey, you make use of each and every breath that has been given to you. And it was, and that just occurred to me that hey, with 2 3 months left, what's the use of doing this, that let me just do what I always knew I had to do. So I started meditating more. I started giving more time to meditation. At before sleeping, I started keeping my dinners extremely light so that I can sit in the practice for long. And I won't be able to share much except the fact that there was that was a time of transformation through pain, to the extent that when I talk to my daughter these days and my daughter asks me, hey, would you like to erase that thing from your past, that would you wish that hey, that injury would not have happened, I say no, 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 absolutely not. Because had that injury not happened, what happened after that would not have happened. And that is, for me, that's a treasure, or it's a treasure that I cherish and I keep very, very close to my heart. And it's not a treasure which is just some theory or some positivity. It is it is much more than that.
You said a few very significant things that when you had this feeling that you don't have much time left in this world, you were not afraid of death. And you did not try to fulfill those few last wishes of, yeah, I must eat this, I should wear this, I should live this type of life, I should make such and such journey, or I should see such and such spectacular place in the world. None of those desires. Instead, you thought, in this period that I still have left, let me try to achieve as much as possible on my Godward journey. So it was spiritual progress that you concentrated on, not those other ordinary desires. And intensified your spiritual practice, especially meditation. And that gave you some spiritual experiences, which you said that you don't want to share, which is understandable because there are very uh, important injunctions against sharing those experiences. The mother has also talked about those reservations one should have about sharing spiritual experiences, which one can understand why it is so. Uh, the most obvious reason is that if one shares those in public, then that works as an ego boost for the person who is sharing, and that can be a big step backwards on the spiritual journey. So certainly, I mean, you don't have to share. But then uh, in those few months, it is obvious that you made a lot of spiritual progress. And therefore, now when your daughter asks you whether you would like to forget that chapter, do you wish that that would not have happened? Would you like to delete it or erase it from your life? You say, no, certainly not. That was probably, in a way, a very significant period in your life on your spiritual journey, during which you took a big leap. And then, of course, you got married at the age of 26. This injury was at age 25. At 26, you got married, and then you were busy in your office. So many other preoccupations apparently uh, diluted or reduced the amount that you were spending on obvious spiritual practices. But then, of course, that doesn't mean that you were not practicing it. while living that life, because a person like you was doing it. And that is so obvious from the way you tried to bring up your child when you got a child in 2012 at the age of 29. So when you got your child, your daughter, then the attention was focused on her all-round development, and you try to do as much as possible in spite of all the office work, all the other preoccupations. This became one of the focal points in your life. So career and other things to some extent took a back seat. So this itself is actually a spiritual attitude. When you keep somebody else's need, even if it is your own child, when you keep somebody else's needs ahead of yours, that is an expression of genuine love, and it is by expressing that love that we grow spiritually. So that parenting has been an important part of your spiritual journey, and I'm sure it has contributed, although you may not have felt it so obviously. It has definitely contributed a lot to your spiritual progress. And more about how you did this parenting, and how you tried to make sure that your child child's education is not interrupted by schooling, if I put it that way, that we can talk sometime later. So thank you, Narinder, a lot for sharing so much of your spiritual journey. And would you like to share some afterthoughts or some last words, some message that you want to give?
First of all, thank you so much. I wanted to learn from you, but you've roped me in for this short conversation, and that just tells your own humility. I've spent a few days with you and here at the ashram, and I am taking back so many learnings that would itself need um, a lot of pen and paper to write. Thank you so much for all the energy, all the blessings that you've given me here in these few days, and I don't even have words to thank you for the work that you have done in writing these books.
No, you don't have to thank you. By writing those books and doing whatever talent the mother has blessed me with, by using those qualities which I have got from the mother, I'm fulfilling the purpose of my life. Thank you.
Thank you.